Welcome to the recording. And for this session, we will discuss about models, requests, and forms. So first, in an model view controller framework, the model is responsible for connecting to our database. So a model is responsible for manipulating, like for example, creating, updating, searching a certain data in our database. So first thing that you need to do if you need to create a model is to first set up your env file. So in CodeIgniter installation files, the env file by default is it doesn't have this .env. So first thing you need to do is to rename the env file into a .env file. So .env file is um, the framework or CodeIgniter is aware that this file is for your configuration file. And with that, you need to scroll down into the database section, and for you have to make sure that the default here is set up like this one. So these variables or configuration files or a certain variable is going to be used by the framework to connect to your database, like for example the host name. So since we are working on our local environment, then we could just use the local host, and of course the database name, which on my end is called ci4, and then the username is root and it doesn't have a password, and that driver or the database engine that we're going to use is a mysql or mysqli. Okay, so after that, if all informations are correct, then CodeIgniter will smoothly or error-free connect to your database. Then next is we need to create our model. So a model in our CodeIgniter should look like this. So first you need to use the namespace models to import or use the model class. So this class will be used, the model class will be used to inherit or extends to your model, like here, like so. So first you need to create your class and it should extend in your model class. So the model parent class has properties and function that you can use when connecting to your table. So in my case here, I created a product model or which represents the product table. So if we're going to check in our database, and remember our database name is ci4, and in our table it has this products table. All right, then you need to have a, so right now the product model that we have has a primary key which represent a single column in our table, which is also a primary key. If we're going to check in our table, the products has a primary key of which the name is ID. And then in our model, it needs to have a property called table, and it should equal to the name of your table in your database. So in our case, it should be products. So the allowed fields property here is for letting for that this model will allow these columns, the name and the description, to be altered or to be changed in our like here in our table. We only allowed the name and then the description to be altered or changed, while the rest, like for example the ID here, is a primary key, and it also has an auto increment property, which will allow it, which we don't need to change the value since it will be auto incremented. And the same for the column created, which has a default value of the current timestamp. So whenever this certain record is created, the column created will be assigned a value which is the current timestamp. So with this we can already use this model for our table. So since this is okay now, so we'll need to use this to a certain controller. So like for example in our home controller, we could um, make use of this model. Maybe products. We could just right. So we could just use it here. So for us to use the model, we need to what do you call that? Import it in our uh, controller. So like for example, so maybe let's try to remove this and this, and let's create a reference to our model. So remember our model was product model.php, which is under the folder models. So let's create a variable. Let's say product model equals to new app. So we are referencing to the app folder, then the models folder, and then the class product model. Alright, so let's try to test this. Say product model, and let's try to refresh this. And as you can see, we already have a reference to the product model. So right now what you're seeing are the properties and methods of the product model. So right now we are getting an error. So undefined variable name, and it is under the views home products.php. So let's try to clear that out. So views home, since we haven't passed a variable name from our controller, so that's why it's getting an error. So let's just try to remove that and refresh it again. So as you can see, this what will mostly look like if you have successfully reference your model. All right. So right for now, let's just remove that. Okay. Okay. So maybe let's try to. Okay, so we already have a what do you call it, a record in our table. So maybe let's try to get some data from our model. So like for example, say product to product model, then find all, and let's just test it if it returns something. So products, There you go. So refresh that, and we have successfully fetch or find our records. As you can see here, we have two arrays, and or these represent the two records from our table. So we have the shampoo, and then we have the soap. So let's try to assign it or send it to our um, product. So let's say products, then the products. Alright, now next is we need to display or test the values for our products and see if they have if we have successfully transferred the value. So in our views in the products page, so let's try to loop them. So for each and for each. So remember, the for each only accepts an array to be iterated or loop. So the products that we have passed, so products as dollar $P, and then let's display the column. Let's say, or you should enclose it in a paragraph. Then the P, and then the column name, and then the description. And let's try to add a divider for each record. So let's refresh that, and as you can see, we have successfully displayed each of our products or row in our table. Now maybe let's as you can see here, we have the output of the record is an array. So that is the same if we are going to add another column. So that means we have to just adjust the index or the address of the array. So maybe let's try to create add a record to our table using the model. So in our controller, let's create a new page or action. Say add product, and our products page, let's create a link here. So A, and then add product, and then it should point to the add product. So let's say home, and then the add product. So let's just create a new page or action. Say add product here, and in our home, let's create a new file, add product. Each one add product. So let's test it out. Then we have the add product. So we have created a link here at the bottom if we want to add a new product here. All right, so let's create a form. So form, the actions, so let's just remove the actions. It will send to the same page. So whenever we click the save button, then it will send to the same page. And let's make sure that the method is equals to post. Then let's create the input text, and the name should be name. And just to make it simple, let's just add a line break there. So, and then let's create a text area, and it should be description, and finally the submit, and let's say save. Right, okay, just a line break. And okay, so let's try to make it simple for now. So if we're going to save this, it should redirect or send to the same page, add product. Now in our CodeIgniter, it has this variable called requests. Like for example, if we need to catch all of these values for each of our field, we need to use the request and then get post. So for example, if we're going to get the name, so it should pass the name. So in our CodeIgniter, it has this variable request, and for us to get all of the fields that we have submitted, then we need to call the get post function, and the parameter or the argument that we need to pass is the name of the field that we're going to extract. It should match the name of our field here. So two things that we could extract here are the name and then the description. So it should look like this. So maybe let's try to test it out. Okay, so nothing's happened because we didn't do anything, but maybe we could try to display the name and then the description. Say test description, and then we have successfully displayed the value, so meaning that we have extracted the values for each of our field, the name and then the description. So this field was extracted using the request object. Now we need to insert them in our table. So using the product model here, so we can just copy this and let's insert them. So we use the product model, then we just need to use the save property. So inside the save method, we need to assign an array, and that array should have the column and the value. So this index that in our array should also be equal to the name of our column in our table. So take note that this column should be added in the allowed fields in here. So if we didn't add this column in the allowed fields, then they will not be updated or manipulated or changed. Right, so the next one is the description and also the variable description. Alright, so let's test it out. Say snacks, or maybe let's say Coke and drinks, and let's try to check it. And as you can see, we have successfully added the new product. And as you can see, the ID and then the created column was auto, the correct value was added, since the created column has a default value of the current timestamp. So whenever a new record was created, the default value is the timestamp on which the record was created. And also we have here the auto increment, which will just add one to the last ID created. So maybe let's try to improve this. So let's say create a um, so if so let's say echo record new record added, else let's say if the record was not successfully created, then let's just print fail. Alright, so let's do that again. Let's say so another product, it should be apples, a nice potato chip, snack. And then we have successfully printed a message that the record was successfully created. Alright, so let's refresh that. Alright, then we have added the record. Alright, so maybe we should add a link here. So at the bottom, let's say back, then the link should point to the controller home, and then it should go to the products. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, so I think it has some errors left here. I mean some message. So let's try to click on back. Well, as you can see here, we have some blank records here. So if we're going to check this, we have some records that have been added without any values. So let's try to add a filter here. So if if name is set or not empty, the name and not empty, description. So if it doesn't contain any values here, the name and the description, then we will not proceed with the insertion. So let's test it out. So let's add a new product, and we have another error. So use a defined constant name, sorry, so it wasn't saved. So let's go back and add again. Okay, so let's try to insert, or maybe let's clear this out first, so that you will see any changes in our table. So let's try to save this and as you can see, it doesn't do anything. And refresh that, and here we go. It did not add any blank data. Okay, so let's say um, if it doesn't have any values, then let's just print echo please fill in the fields. Right, so let's say let's add another error. Same, so blank fields, and then as you can see, it gives us an error that the field should be filled in. So let's say candy, and we have successfully added a new record. So let's refresh that, and we have inserted a new record here. Okay, so let's go back here and refresh, and we have a total of 5 records. So maybe let's add a link where we can delete the record here. So in our code, in the views product, let's add a link here. So let's say delete. So let's just make it as simple as possible. So delete. So in our home, and then let's add a delete actions here, and this time we will pass an argument here, the ID of our record. So p and then ID, and then let's put a text here, delete. So let's refresh that, and as you can see here at the bottom, it assigns the ID of our record. So it should go to the delete page, or to make it semantic, let's put here delete underscore product, and then let's create a new action here. So public function delete product, and this time we should have parameter passed in our URL, so it should be ID, and then we should have a reference to our model, and let's say if, then if we have an ID, then let's delete the product. So the product model, then delete, and then the ID. Okay, so let's try that. And right now we're not doing anything here, so let's just go back, and we have deleted the soap. Let's delete that, and as you can see, the 2 record was deleted, so it was shampoo and soap. So if we're going to refresh this, we have successfully deleted the 2 records. So in what we have done here is we just call the method deleted. So maybe let's try to redirect to the home and then products. So after we have deleted, let's go back to the products page. So let's delete Coke, and we have an error. Alright, so I did check again, so it should be redirect and then to. So the method redirect, and then we need to call the to method, and then the URL, or the action, the controller, and then the actions. We need to provide that so that it will redirect properly. All right, so let's add another product, a new product. So let's say test, and I should go back and let's delete that, and it redirected to our products page. All right, now next is we need to add a edit. So let's edit our product. Okay, so first we need to add a link. So same thing that we need to do is we need to do it. The action should be edit product, and it should supply the ID of the record. Then edit. So let's refresh that. Let's add a product, and we have here the edit, and it should go to the edit product action. Now let's create a new page, which is edit underscore product, and under our controller we have to create the action, and in this action we should accept or get the ID that is being passed. So let's create a variable ID here. Then let's create another reference to our product model, and let's retrieve that record using the ID that it is being passed. So product is equals to product model, and this time we need to use the function where, and the condition should be let's find the ID where the value is equals to the ID, and then let's get the first record. Okay, so let's try to dump the record for now, and let's see if we have successfully retrieved the record. Okay, so product, press that, and we have successfully fetched the record with the ID 14. So next is we need to create a new view. So let's edit product.php, and to make it simpler, let's copy the ones we have in the add product. So edit, and this time we need to assign an input, which is a heading, and this will hold the ID for each record that it is being viewed, and the value is the current ID. Before we do that, we need to first assign the variable to our record. So what we have here, so this one, so just need to copy this, and then let's assign the product, and then it should be edit. So the record that we fetch should be added to the view file, and this product should hold, or variable product will hold the current product. So the product is equals to the ID of the record. Okay, so just copy this, and same goes for our name, and it should be name. Oops, I didn't add it here. And of course the description should be in between the text area. So description, and it's not update, say, but update. Okay, so let's refresh the page, and there you go. We have successfully retrieved the data, or the record that we need to update. So if we're going to edit tide, then I just click on edit and you'll see that goes to the tide. And so next is once we click update, it should save the record. So same goes here. We need to just copy this, and if the name post and this time ID is not empty, so we need to check that the ID, name, and description are not empty. So we just need to add another value here, which is the ID. So in CodeIgniter, if it's see the ID or the primary key that it is being added in our save function, then it will automatically update that record. Okay, so record updated. Okay, let's do that. So refresh. Oops, please fill in. Okay, okay, so let's say tide powder, then let's update that, and there you go. We have as you can see here, it, like for example, if we're going, the update was delayed, or maybe we could just redirect this instead of displaying the record. So maybe let's return and then redirect, then to, and then the controller, which is home, and then the pay or action, so products. Okay, so maybe we can just improve these later on. So let's say test, um, let's say mm, lucky me pancit canton, so update that, and as you can see, we have successfully updated our record. All right, so maybe in the next video, let's try to improve this and add a the bootstrap framework, and let's improve our code. So for now, you have the basic codes here on how to add, edit, and then delete our record. So watch out for the next video. Thank you.